Hi, so this is Amanda. My name's Nicole, and we're coordinators from the Peer Connect Committee on campus. We're here with Tworkowski, part of the foundation to write Love on Her Arms, and we just have a few questions from students. So just a couple students ask some questions, so if you don't mind, we'll just get started right in that.
I don't mind at all.
So we know that this whole foundation originated from helping just one person. So what was it that drove you to make it into a movement?
It really wasn't my decision. You know, the charity or the organization or even the movement was really born from the response, the surprising response to the story that I wrote and the attempt to help my friend Renee. And initially it was a story posted online and the idea of printing and selling t-shirts to pay for her to get through treatment. And no intention of something bigger than that or, you know, an organization or anything. But really the story and the shirts went viral, and out of that surprising response, hearing from people all over the world and starting to send t-shirts all over the world, had to kind of sit back and realize something bigger was happening. So it was sort of backwards from, you know, it wasn't like I had this idea and I wrote it on a whiteboard, and we had an audience that was growing and money coming in before we decided to be a charity. And so it was kind of this 1 in a million opportunity.
Interesting.
Cool. I think that a lot of students have this question. So how do you make taking care of your mental health a priority? So for us, especially as university students, what are ways that we can do that?
I think it starts by talking about it, because really the biggest problem is the stigma that suggests that if you struggle with depression or addiction, or if you've thought about suicide, those are things you're not allowed to talk about. And that begins to go away as soon as we do talk about it. And I think honesty and vulnerability are very contagious. So if I'm honest about some things that aren't perfect in my life, it can be disarming and inviting for someone else to do the same. So I think it starts there. It doesn't mean all day, every day, in every class with every person, but I think the hope is you have a few friends that can be a support system. And then beyond that, if you're really struggling, to know it's totally okay to sit across from a counselor or a therapist. And, you know, the same way if your car isn't working or if you break your arm, we don't think twice in those areas of life about seeing a professional. And I think mental health shouldn't be any different.
So kind of just branching off of that then. So we have a committee called Peer Connect that works to break the stigma of mental health through running campaigns to support those struggling with mental illnesses. So what are ways that have been beneficial for you in opening the doors to those tough conversations in order to kickstart that change? And what is something that you found to be successful that we could possibly try incorporating into our own campaigns?
Yeah, I mean, some of what we just touched on comes to mind. You know, I think it happens in conversations, it happens in relationships, friendships, you know, so that can play out over lunch, over coffee. It could be as organized as a meeting, you know, it could be a small meeting or a big meeting. You know, even today's special event is an example. So we're really all for people having that conversation, whether it's one-on-one or in a large group like today. We use social media. We've kind of been able to see the best of social media, and really with that we use words more than anything else, and have come to believe that words are very powerful. We use design as well, and a lot of times, especially in the past, charities weren't known for being very good or even very interested at design or even writing, and we really value those things. And I think if you're trying to create something that's attractive and inviting, it's okay to think about things like, hey, does the poster look right, and is this tweet well written? You know, things. We're kind of throwing everything we can at this problem, and so we're trying to, you know, do the best job possible.
So I think that with that conversation, I think a big concern that friends and family have with with people that are struggling with that type of stuff is how to approach them. So what are different methods or strategies that you think work in opening that conversation?
Yeah, so I think a lot of times because people are afraid or they don't know where to start, they don't start at all. And so I think if you don't know what to say, you start there. Because really, I don't think it's so much about, there are methods and strategy and a lot of it, I think at that point, you're just hoping someone will end up in the hands of an expert. But for us as a friend or a classmate or a roommate, I think it just starts with being honest and being compassionate. And we can't control the response that we're met with. You know, you could make the perfect speech, but you can't control if someone hears it or they receive it. But we can control if we show up and if we're kind and if we keep showing up. And I think it starts by saying, hey, are you okay? You seem down, you seem off. Is there something I could do to help? Could we talk about it? Would you be open to talking to a counselor? Could I go with you? So really simple things or simple thoughts and places to start. But a lot of times when we're hurting, we're not looking for the perfect speech. I think we might not be looking for words at all, but just someone that shows up and shows us that we're not alone and would meet us in our questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one aspect of the Peer Connect Committee is an anonymous phone line service for students to call and talk to other students. So I guess what's a way to create that dialogue on an anonymous phone line? Would you say that's any different or same sort of idea?
Yeah, I think the anonymous idea, it's probably just very comfortable. It makes something that's uncomfortable for people more comfortable. There's all sorts of research that points to that. Someone might be afraid to talk to a friend or even a parent, but the idea that they can be anonymous in a setting that's private and they could share something, I think is more inviting for people. And you hope it's both. You hope that, again, approaching it from every angle, you hope it can happen in friendships, in conversations on campus and relationships, but certainly the specific work that you guys are doing there is super important.
So when helping others who are struggling, I think it often takes a big toll on, of course, your own mental and physical health. So what do you think are some strategies to find a balance between being a good support system, but as well as not letting your own well-being be a second priority?
So again, I don't think it comes off very strategic, but we believe people need people. And so it's true for folks on both sides of it. If you're trying to help someone, you need people as well. And if like you're mentioning, there's a burden, there's a weight, so you need people that meet you there and people that you can be honest with. And it's important to learn boundaries, and you can't be on all the time, you can't be giving or pouring out all the time. And so I think it's about balance, and other people, especially people who know us, can help us figure that out. And if you're really walking through something difficult with someone you care about, maybe just like you hope they get help, it's okay for you to get help as you walk through that as well.
Yeah.
So once a conversation has already opened and treatment has begun for someone who's suffering from any kind of mental illness, how can supporters continue to ensure that that person is treated as a human being still and more than just their illness?
Well, I think once someone is in the hands of a professional, to some degree you have to trust the process, because that kind of becomes a bigger conversation. But maybe in terms of resources here on campus, I think you trust the experts or the professionals or people who know things that we don't know to do what they do. And as a friend, you can support that just by being compassionate. Certainly you can ask questions about how it's going. We love to remind people not every counselor is going to be a perfect fit. You might go to a dentist you don't like, and so you go to a different dentist. That's just part of life. Not everything's going to click right away, but we love to encourage people, and I feel like I get to show up on behalf of a lot of good experiences where people were brave and took that step, and they sit with someone, and a lot of change and good and healing can happen.
We've already touched on this a little bit, but I've been following Trey Love and Arms for a while now, and I've seen how, as time goes on, more and more people are just open to talking about it, which is amazing. But what's the most important thing I think to remember as we continue to have conversations about mental health?
I think we're touching on all of it already. As the years have gone by, I've been able to kind of boil it down and just say this whole thing is about the idea that if you struggle, you're not alone. It's okay to be honest, and it's okay to ask for help. So if people only took away those things, those are a game changer.
Yeah.